Okay, you're trying to get into Warhammer, and you found that it feels like building IKEA furniture without the instructions whilst on a hangover, and now you're surrounded by weird names and tiny bits of plastic that you don't understand, and then just when you've got it figured out, some random guy on the internet says, but that's a subfaction of a chapter of Forge World, and your brain is now quietly just packing its bags. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. So if you're new and you're thinking, what do I actually need to buy, especially when everyone just keeps telling me how expensive it is, I've got you. Here's the deal. I am deep into lore, like real deep. I could tell you what a Necron Overlord eats for breakfast. It's that personal. But I'm actually very new to playing and painting. I only started in April after picking up my army off eBay like an absolute budget champion. And since then, I've played a few games. I've painted a bunch of minis, not greatly. Greatly, well done, well, not well. And made all the classic rookie mistakes so that you don't have to. This is like a fresh, straight from the noob womb advice, beginner to beginner. So let's break it down. Anyway, what even is Warhammer? It's a tabletop miniature war game. It basically means that you build and you paint these badass little sci-fi fantasy models, and then you put them on a board or a table and you duke it out with dice and tape measures and rules. Think Star Wars meets Dungeons and Dragons meets Phantom of the Opera if they were all tech wizard aliens, and you've got space knights, alien bugs, evil robots, tanks the size of buildings just fighting in a galaxy where literally everything is on fire all of the time. But what's an army? I'm glad you asked, because I'll be saying army a lot, and I do not mean real world military stuff. In Warhammer, your army is just essentially the collection of models that you play with. Every army has its own vibe. We'll start with the obvious ones, the Space Marines, those powered armour super soldiers who solve every problem with a bigger gun. Tyranids, you'll recognise them from like Space Marine 2. Alien bug swarms straight out of Stormship troopers. Necrons, ancient robot skeletons with the we were here first energy. Eldar are like space elves but with psychic powers and big bad attitudes, and orcs are like those typical football fans if they were 10 feet tall and green. And there's of course like 15 more. My best advice is just pick the one that makes you go, that's cool. Whether it's the look, the backstory, or just the vibes, start with what speaks to you. Don't worry about what's strong right now or all of the meta stuff. You'll have way more fun if you just love the models you're building. First off, I think it's important to say welcome. You officially stepped into the grim dark future where everything is epic, over the top and full of massive battles, and now you're wondering, what's next? What do I need to do? If you go by the official Games Workshop route, which is the company that makes Warhammer, they're going to throw a lot at you straight away. They're going to say, here's a starter set, here's some paint, don't forget tools and glue and everything else, and it's a whole thing. But let's slow it down. Before you spend money on stuff you might not even care about, ask yourself the most important question. What army do you actually want to play? And obviously, we kind of just covered like what an army actually is. So the starter sets, they usually come with like Space Marines or Tyranids. They're both cool, but are they even your style? Do you like heroic sci-fi soldiers with giant guns, or are you even into swarms of alien horrors? Maybe you don't like either of those things, and that is okay, because there are tons of other armies out there too. Just start there, not with a shopping list, not with a pile of models you didn't even want or love. Start, like I said, with what just what looks cool. What makes you think, I want to build and paint that? And then once you've figured that out, everything else, the rules, the paints, the models, all of that will make things like just make way more sense. That's my beginner's advice. Anyway, right, I'm going to go ahead and assume that you've kind of got a vague idea of what army you like and how they look and maybe how they play. I'm hoping you've checked some of those boxes, because if you pick the Tau and you're thinking they're going to charge into battle swinging swords like Aragon, well, let's just say your fire warriors are more tech support than barbarian rage. Every army has its strengths and weaknesses. Some are all about getting up and close and personal, like World Eaters who make the Hulk look like a yoga instructor, and others would rather stay far away and shoot things into oblivion. Hello again, Tau. Now, most armies these days, they have something called a combat patrol box. Think of it like a starter pack that actually makes sense. It gives you like a small playable force that fits together well, and it usually saves you some cash compared to buying everything separately. Kind of like buying the box set of a TV series instead of the individual DVDs. Wow, DVDs, do we remember those? Who remembers those? But not all combat patrols are created equal. Some are better value and more balanced than others. And that said, buying one is usually a pretty safe bet for a beginner. If you're buying more than one, maybe just slow down a bit, cowboy. Some units, they don't scale well in multiples, and you might end up with models that you don't really need. And this is important. Before you start building armies and shouting "for the Emperor" from your kitchen table, make sure you have your Codex. What even is a Codex? It's your army's rulebook. It's kind of like their user manual. It's full of stats and special abilities and lore, and you'll need the core rules for that game first, but after that your Codex is kind of what lets you actually build an army that works. Now, some Codex books are labelled as supplements, and that means that they don't stand on their own. You need the main permanent book to go with it. So if, like me, you grabbed the Blood Angels supplement because they look like vampire Roman soldiers, which, fair, just know that you'll also need the Codex Space Marines to get all of the actual rules. So once you've got your rules and your Codex sorted, then yeah, grab the Combat Patrol box. At that point, you've kind of got everything you need to actually play the game in a much smaller format called, wait for it, Combat Patrol. It's a great way to learn the game without needing 50 models and a PhD in tactics. But the good news is you can actually download the combat rules for free on the Warhammer community website. So if you want to check out what your army does before you buy anything, it's a great place to start. I'll link it in the description. There's no like ambushes on your wallet. It's just great information to access. What comes after Combat Patrol? So you've played a few Combat Patrol games, you've dipped your toes in, your models are built, hopefully with most of their limbs attached, and you're starting to get the hang of this whole Warhammer thing. So what's next? Well, here's one of the cool things about Warhammer. It grows with you. You can scale up your games as your collection gets bigger, more models, bigger battles, longer games, kind of like upgrading from Mario Kart to full-blown like Gran Turismo. Most players eventually aim for what's called a 2,000 point army. That's the standard size for a Strike Force game, which is basically a regular full-fat version of 40k. It's also the size most tournaments use. Even if you're not planning on joining a tournament anytime soon or even ever at all, 2,000 points is a sweet spot for like casual games too. Big enough to feel epic, but not big that it becomes a full weekend commitment and a reason to cancel all your plans. Time to build your list, Commander. Here's where things get just a little bit more technical, but don't worry, it's not rocket science. It's more like fantasy football, but with aliens and plasma guns. You'll need to start building your own army list, which is just a fancy way of saying figure out what units you want to bring and make sure they don't go over the points limit. There are a few ways to do this. Again, this is from my experience as a new player. Option 1 is the 40k app. It's like the grown-up option, right? Cat's playing with the tripod, there's no earthquake. You can grab the official Warhammer 40k app from obviously an app store, but once you have your army's codex, you do have a codex, right? You can register the code in the app. It's at the back of the book, and that unlocks your army's rules and the list builder tool. You don't need to subscribe to Warhammer Plus to use the list builder. You just need to create a free account and then register the code that's at the back of your codex. It gives you fast access to your unit stats, abilities, and other really good stuff. It's perfect if you want less page flipping and more pew-pewing, pew-pew, pew-pew. Option 2 is just your old school mode. You can always go analog, grab a notepad, a pencil, a calculator, or your phone. Look at your unit points online. Games Workshop actually puts them out for free in downloadable PDFs. It's pretty useful. Write out your own list, check your math, try not to accidentally bring 2,400 points to a 2,000 point game. We've all been there, or maybe not you, but I have. Whatever path you choose, building your own list is part of the fun. You start to figure out your army's strengths, weaknesses, and then which units you really enjoy using. It's kind of like putting together a team of action heroes, but some of them have flamethrowers and psychic powers. So yeah, once you're done with Combat Patrol, stepping up to full games is kind of the next level. Just take your time, build what you like, and enjoy the ride. That's cringe, but it's true. And remember, it's just a hobby. It's not a race. Unless you're playing Drakari, then yes, it is very much a race. What do you buy next? So at this point, you might be sat there thinking, wait, this whole video and all you've told me to buy is the rule books, a codex, and Combat Patrol. Is that it? And yeah, that's because the next few things you buy are actually pretty important and not exactly cheap. You don't want to spend your hard-earned money or your hobby budget or your secret stash that you hide from your spouse on a unit that ends up just being a total lemon. Build your army your way. This is the path I recommend, like I am some sort of guru. You heard it here first. It takes a little more effort, but it's worth it. Now, I say more effort because I've had a fair few people online advising me to like go online, look up the latest top tier lists, aka like what all the sweaty tournament players are using, and then just buy that. It's not hard to find. Google will happily throw at you 14 YouTube videos and 35 Reddit threads before you finish typing what is the best Blood Angels. But the problem is that the meta is always changing. Games Workshop drops updates like surprise mixtapes. Point values get tweaked, rules get nerfed or even buffed, and some units just suddenly become overpowered and others get sent to like the Shadow Realm. So instead, as a beginner, I would suggest, and it's what I found easy, is just check the army construction rules in your Codex and the core rules. The big step here is picking a detachment, kind of like choosing your army's game plan or theme, so to speak, I guess. Each detachment, it has different rules, benefits and restrictions, as in you can't take these units together because that would just be insane. So before you buy anything else, pick your detachment, read the restrictions, plan a list based on what you think sounds fun or fits your like playstyle goal, and then build the units for that list. Stick to buying just what you need for the list. No extras, no impulse buys, unless it's a very cool looking model that speaks to your soul, in which case treat yourself. But a bonus tip, I suppose, is just talk to other players. We have an amazing community here on YouTube. I am not lying when I say it is the best community of nerds on the internet. I have screenshot so many comments from my videos and I use it for advice. Everyone is so cool and helpful, so please just ask anything you want. Someone is going to help you. If you're super knowledgeable, thank you. Because honestly, the advice that you leave and the comments that you leave, it helps so many people in the hobby. It's just amazing. So please drop a comment. Ask people in our community what they think of your list. We love talking about this stuff, and honestly, we'll be happy to help a newcomer out. I found the advice in the comments on my videos and even my live streams has just been way more helpful than just some rando online trying to sell me on a broken list they saw win a tournament last year somewhere random in the outback in Australia. Real life feedback, especially after a few games, will help you fine-tune your army and avoid those why did I buy this moments. The bottom line is there's no magic shopping list that works for everyone. Just build a list that fits how you want to play, check the detachment rules, and then just buy smart. The models, they aren't going anywhere, but your wallet might if you rush it. So here's the part where things can start to get a little chaotic. You're browsing models online, you've got your list ready, and then suddenly, what about this character? That tank looks cool. I saw someone use this unit in a video like 2 months ago on YouTube. Welcome to 40K. You've officially entered the phase known as impulse buying. Look, sometimes those random additions, they do work out. Sometimes they become your favourite model. Other times they live forever on the shelf of shame, next to your unopened fitness bands and that drone you flew once into a tree. Here's the honest truth. You will end up buying things that you never use. It's kind of part of the hobby, like stubbing your toe in the dark. It's inevitable, a little painful, and it's a shared experience. Warhammer, it can seem like a towering monolith of lore and rules and plastic sprues, but underneath it all is just a bunch of people playing with tiny space wizards and arguing over who forgot to bring a measuring tape. It's meant to be fun, messy, nerdy, glorious fun. You'll make mistakes, you'll paint something you hate, you'll build a list that gets wiped term one and wonder if you should have picked a quieter hobby like stamp collecting or bee whispering, but you'll also get better, you'll learn faster, and maybe even win a few games, especially if your opponent forgets their codex. Just remember, pick what you love, build at your pace, and if all else fails, blame the dice, or blame me. Blame me for bad beginner advice, and I'll take the fall for you. I'll do that. Anyway, if you're still here, thank you so much, and I'm only going to implore you one time to please do all those things you need to do to support my tiny channel, and I hope to see you in the next video.